All right, welcome to the Command Center. For this explainer, we're charting a course through the most complex territory there is, your own internal world. Our mission? It's to establish a single fixed point in a world that just never, ever stops moving.
I mean, just look around you. It's 2026, and there's this constant static, right? This digital grain that's filling up all the space between our thoughts. It's the sheer amount of AI-managed everything, trends that shift by the hour, all this algorithmic noise. It's so easy to feel adrift in it all.
But right in the middle of all that chaos, there's a clear, steady signal. And that's what we're here to find. We call it your internal north. Now, this isn't some destination you're trying to get to. Think of it more like a modern compass. It's your core set of values, your truths, that just don't change, even when everything else around you does.
So, here's our mission plan. First, we're going to tackle that feeling of being lost in all the digital noise. Then, we'll move into Phase 1, the personal audit. After that, Phase 2 is all about equipping you with your mapping tools. And finally, we'll cover how to navigate your future using this new internal map.
You know, any map is pretty useless if you don't know your own coordinates. So this first phase is all about getting our bearings. It's time to run a personal audit to clear away some of this digital noise so we can actually see where we are standing right now.
The first step is a really simple data gathering exercise. It's called energy mapping. So over here on this side, you're going to log the activities that genuinely power you up. What gives you that charge? And then on this side, you list the things that just drain you. By just watching and logging, you'll start to see patterns emerge. It's pretty amazing.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Where do those patterns even come from? We have to start thinking about the algorithmic self. See, this is the version of you whose tastes are being molded by constant AI feedback. Think about it. When you open your streaming service, are you actively choosing a new show? Or are you just picking from a list that an algorithm built for you based on what you used to watch? You have to ask yourself, am I the one choosing, or is an algorithm choosing for me?
So the real practical takeaway from this audit is making a not-to-do list. This is all about making a conscious choice about what you're going to ignore to declutter your mental map. This could mean tuning out those unhelpful algorithmic suggestions, cutting back on screen time that doesn't feel right, and just ignoring social pressures or habits that you know are draining you. Okay, so now we have a much clearer view of where we're at, so we can move to Phase 2, equipping ourselves with the right mapping tools. This is where we actually build the personal decision filter that's going to guide us from here on out.
So the main tool in our kit, it's surprisingly simple, and it comes from the researcher Brené Brown. Here's the task. You have to identify your 2 and only 2 non-negotiable core values. Just 2. This forces a kind of simplicity that brings an incredible amount of clarity.
And this is how it works so brilliantly. You might be thinking, just 2? How is that enough? Well, the trick is to nest related ideas underneath them. So if courage is one of your top values, that's the umbrella for things like honesty, setting boundaries, accountability. Or if growth is your other one, that covers learning, curiosity, and resilience. It creates this simple but incredibly powerful framework for decisions.
Another really powerful tool is something we call mental navigation. Turns out our brains literally use the same pathways to navigate ideas as they do to navigate physical spaces. So what that means is, when you feel like you've hit a dead end, like a wall right here, you can consciously reframe that. You're not stuck. You've just found an obstacle to navigate, which is just something you can find a path around.
Okay, we've got our map, we've got our tools. Now let's see how this all comes together in our final phase, navigating your future. This is all about using our internal north to write our own story, especially in this age of AI. The single biggest risk of letting technology guide our self-discovery is getting trapped in what's called a digital echo chamber. This is what happens when an algorithm only shows you what it thinks you already are. It just keeps reinforcing one tiny part of your identity and basically stops you from evolving.
So the counter strategy to that is what we call active self-construction. It's a really simple 3-step protocol. First, use AI as a tool, not as a guide. Second, you have to prioritize your own reflection over its recommendations every single time. And third, and this is the big one, you must always remain the primary author of your own story.
So how do we actually plan in a world that changes this fast? Well, rigid 5-year plans are basically obsolete. The modern way to do it is to set tiny 24-month intentions. This gives you a clear direction to move towards, but it also builds in the flexibility you need to adapt as the world shifts around you.
And there's one last critical piece of gear for this journey.
You need to find your +1 skill. This is a hobby, an activity, anything that you do purely for joy, no productivity goals, no side hustle potential. It's an anchor to your authentic self, a reminder of who you are outside of all the noise.
Really, it all boils down to this one core truth. Your compass, your values, your internal clarity, that is the only true stability you can actually rely on in a world of constant, unrelenting change.
You see, the mission isn't about creating something new out of thin air. Your north, it's already there. It's inside you. So the only real question left is this: what's your first step to find it?